All right, I think I'm actually live. Let's see, how are the levels? I think the levels are still too low. Chair is far too squeaky. Let me adjust that. Let's see. Am I late? Am I actually streaming? One's in the chat if I'm streaming. Why don't we get used to that? Apparently not. He did it. Green cloth, low volume. How loud do I have to turn this thing up? Okay, good. At some point, maybe there would be some sort of like regular once a week streaming schedule so I can get used to this. But happy green screen yet again. I thought I had the audacity to think that I would actually be able to get this thing, what do they call that, chroma keyed out. But apparently there needs to be more light at the bottom or some crap like that. And as usual, I spent more time on the research than time on actually figuring out how to set up the damn green screen. So I figured today I'm going to do the smart thing and just set up the green screen after the stream. Probably, but instead of just clocking out the second the green screen's or the second the stream's over, maybe just spend that 5 minutes and get it done. All right, let's see. A lot going on today. What, Tucker Carlson either got fired or let go or quit or something like that. Don Lemon definitely got fired. Let's see. Leave the green screens your friend now. I'm just waiting for people to like green screen me into some like Jurassic Park scene or some crap like that. Is it Don Lemon or Don Lemon? Was it Jussie Smollett or Juicy Smollett? Be abusive man. What? All right. Anyway, I figured that a pretty decent use of some of these streams is to let's see which a pretty decent use of these streams is to well, there's a lot of things that get left over in videos that I don't really get to cover, and a part of me like wants to continuously make the videos shorter and shorter. That way I can get them out faster and we can get on to the next topic. But also there's just things that was like, oh man, this can't be left out. So with that last video, the one on Novara Media and the trad wife stuff like that, for those who haven't seen it, this company called Novara Media made a video saying that trad wives are bad and you're all right if you actually want to stay home with your kids instead of letting the government raise them or letting some $5 an hour daycare employee raise your kids. So I had done all the research for that video. I'd pretty much written the entire script as well. And then at the end of it, I was like, well, maybe I should discuss this funding thing more because it doesn't make sense how a really small channel, let me pull this up for you for, again, this video is just released, so probably a lot of you have not seen it yet. For a channel that is so small to have so much expensive crap. Oh, sorry. Oh, smart me just did not change over the audio. Let's get that over. So it doesn't make sense. Jeez.
I look at economic analysis.
Oh my God. All right, there we go. I'm gonna slightly pretend I'm professional at this. That a channel, is there a better place to place me? Maybe up here. With 300K subscribers can afford like a full staff. I think they had, I counted because I was talking to somebody earlier about it. They have 24 employees. They have editors. Editing is expensive. Like it's really, really, really expensive if you want to have like a full-time editor. They have, again, multiple pundits who are probably making a certain salary, especially if this is their full-time job and they're not just contributors, which it looks like their full-time job. I think it'd be hard just to, if there were only 3 people working on this channel, this guy, whoever he is, this guy who's the founder, Aaron Bastani, and then Ash, somewhere here, right here, that girl right here, who was the main focus of the video. If you just took those 3 people and split the revenue between this 300 sub channel, you wouldn't have enough money to pay them a living. So it's like, who's giving them money? And I did some preliminary research. It's like, oh, the Ford Foundation and some other thing. And I was like, well, should I really leave it at that? Because it doesn't make sense how they're doing all this stuff. And I really want to connect this stuff to who's doing it. And so then I started going down the rabbit hole. One, I spent like, I think either a day or a day and a 1/2 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 day and then, or I mean, this is just one of the sources they're related to, because they are grouped in this thing called the Media Fund UK, and the Media Fund's like a conglomerate of all these different companies. One of them being Open Democracy, who Novara Media here is very well related to. And that company got like $1 million in 2021 from George Soros and a bunch of other companies. So it's like, well, you sure seem to have a fun time being related to a lot of companies who are, or a lot of areas that are funded by billionaires, even though you make this video that says, oh, we're not funded by billionaires, we have no billionaire influence, and you can kind of do plausible deniability, where it's like, if you go up here, like, I love the lies by omission that you could easily do in this case, which is like, you have to, because there's no way you don't have a major funder if you can afford a full website, a merch shop, again, someone to even just call the donors, because you're not getting. Hold on a second. It's hard to talk and type at the same time. Let's see. There we go. So, where am I? There am I. Why isn't my thing moving? There we go. So it says this tagline, defy billionaire-backed media and back truly independent journalism. And so like, oh, well, we don't have a billionaire backer, but we might have a millionaire backer or something like that. Shaman King, that new one sucked. And I didn't think the original one that aired on 4Kids never finished. It was kind of disappointing. Let's see. Somebody was asking me about the MrBeast thing. I already gave my opinion on that on Twitter. So go look on Twitter for that. I think it's obviously people were making fun of us, that guy who goes by Sunny V2, about saying this puts MrBeast in a pretty difficult situation, because it's like Jimmy obviously tries to stay out of politics completely. He was like, people were like, well, what do you think about COVID? He's like, I have zero opinion on this, and I don't look at politics whatsoever, which is probably a lie. Chris is very political on his Twitter, and Chris is very, very anti-feminism, which is weird that he just made this sort of flip. Like, that was out of nowhere. But as far as that goes, like, I already gave my opinion on Twitter. It puts MrBeast in a pretty difficult situation, and there's probably no right answer to this in terms of not pissing somebody off. The new anime did suck, but the manga is better. That's kids manga. I probably should read that. My reading's terrible in Japanese. Somebody else super chat something? Sorry, that was a super chat from Max. $2 super chat from Max. What are your thoughts on the Chris situation for MrBeast? Reese MS4, $2 super chat. Thank you. Excited for the stream. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Certified Church Classics, $5 super chat. Do you ever stop thinking? Do you ever take time to sleep? No. No on both of those. Okay. So there's this huge rabbit hole behind this. Some of it leads to George Soros. I would love to have the time to, be great to have this massive staff of people. Like, again, I don't know what these associates are. Maybe you can count them, maybe you can't, but there's 24 people here that are doing work. I would love to have like 2 or 3 researchers just sit there and just for a day look at all the financial connections to these companies and see, like, how did you get 6,000 supporters when you had 200,000 subscribers? Because that's like a ridiculously high number. Oh yeah, Blair White has a video on that. Watch that one. In terms of the MrBeast situation. This is like a horrible job for someone who has ADD. So I would love to see what all the actual financial connections are, and I bet they're connected to not just George Soros, but multiple billionaires. I mean, you look at the channel, and let me pull up the other channel tab. Like, here's the thing. Here's the silver lining in all this stuff, and I think I was listening to Gary Nerdrotic say this, and maybe it was either that him or Chris Gore on one of his streams, is that the people who are all the pro-woke stuff, they are terrible at their jobs. They are not good. And I looked at a couple of these videos where it's like, oh, maybe I should pull this up from like a more specific video. I saved one from earlier. Like I looked at some of these videos and they're so bad. Like I would never listen to this video unless I was like some, I don't know, it's like NPR bad. Like NPR talks about some very intellectual topics, but ultimately like most of the stuff NPR talks about are really boring. So like the only reason you would listen to that station is if you're in college and you're trying to say like I'm the knowledgeable person who listens to NPR with the whisper speaking and stuff like that. Let's see, where is it? There it is. I should probably give these videos or these things different titles so I can find them faster. Okay, but I'm looking at this, and this is a recent video. One of them's recent, one of them's old. And it's like, you have a staff and you can't fix like basic problems.
Callers into
That's not what I was looking for.
Callers into
Oh my God, is it gonna autoplay? Let's try it one more time. I'll try it on Firefox. I'm pretty sure Firefox won't autoplay it. And for some reason, Google. There we go. Firefox didn't. That's why I have like 40,000 different browsers. All right. So we look at this, and if we're in terms of like professionalism, in terms of YouTube thumbnail editing, one, I guess it's good that this is like you can read this legibly. But in terms of text effects, if you want things to pop out, this is basic stuff that you learn when you first learn thumbnails, is to put some sort of border or shadow behind it so people can read it, especially when this is small, because when this is big, it's obviously very easy to read. But when you have situations like this where you don't have a perfect blend, where like this text color obviously doesn't blend on the background. But if you look at a different video like this one's a little bit older, so I guess it can be more forgiving, but they still had funders here. So it's like you still should be able to afford a guy who can create a thumbnail with a text border. Why does it do that on Firefox but not on Google Chrome? But like, see how like it'd be very, very hard to read this text if the thumbnail was this size. And it very, very much blends in the background. These are very beginner mistakes for people who have money for staff. So the silver lining here, and then when you actually, this terrible title, by the way, when you actually watch the videos, they're incredibly boring. Like, holy crap, it's very, very boring. So silver lining, a lot of these people would not make it if they didn't have these massive funders. And eventually these people are going to run out of money. Like, eventually Disney is going to run out of money and somebody's going to replace them. Let's see, Jack, $5 super chat. How's your Japanese progressing? It was fun seeing it in one of your videos. Jeez. It's progressing very, very slowly because of all the work that is required in this job. If you're going to do something very, very difficult, like learn a new language, especially in terms of difficulty, one of the most difficult languages for a Westerner, because Asian languages are very different from Western languages in terms of how they're grammatically structured. Like, everything is flipped around. Like, you're not really sure where to put things until you had a lot of experience. Do those when you have lots of free time. I think realistically, to become fluent in Japanese in 3 to 5 years, you need to study between 2 and 3 hours every single day, or 5 to 7 days a week for 3 to 5 years to get a decent level of fluency. I am very, very close to fluency, but I keep getting stopped because I don't have enough time to study. But I still am progressing like a little bit. God, I can't pronounce the name. Cowdite? Whatever that says. $5 super chat. I love your scripted content. I rarely watch your. Well, yeah, that's true. Reason being, you tend to go off on internal monologue tangents and get distracted. Well, you know, that's a part of live streaming. Anyway, speaking of being distracted, why don't we go to the main thing that was from the thumbnail and get this whole thing started of the theme of people cannot do their own damn research. Everybody thinks they're like the smartest person in the world when it's like, I found a Huffington Post article that said something that I have a bias towards, but they never actually look at the study. Because in terms of this video that is in the thumbnail, this person's like, oh, I'm well researched, I'm girl boss, I know what I'm talking about. But when you look at these things that she's talking about, they don't actually have any proof of what they're talking about. They don't go over how, more importantly, they don't go over how they found their proof. Because in terms of like questionnaires or like surveys that say we found this about men versus women, there's a lot of what are called confounding factors, or yeah, I think it's called confounding factors, where it's like you could easily you can easily say, oh, well, what about this? And if you say, well, what about this? That destroys the entire study. So let's watch this. Hopefully it doesn't blow up people's ears. I'm going to go a little bit more conservative with the volume. And we'll see if it kills anybody. Okay.
If you've ever had the misfortune of being served divine feminine content on this god.
This is in reference to more the trad wife trend, or like women trying to actually be feminine on TikTok, because TikTok's still a pretty female-dominated app. Anyway.
Forsaken app, this video is for you. So I'm going to tell you why the whole divine feminine, divine masculine discourse is just repackaged Christian doctrine, and why it's bullshit and you shouldn't listen to it. And I'm going to do it in business casual because
it's very, again, I bet she thinks, and she would describe herself, like Novara Media describes himself as independent journalism. We use the facts. We get both sides of the equation. We really, well, actually, no, they don't say both sides. They actually say they're partisan. But we give the honest interpretation of the data, when it's like, no, you don't. Because if you were going to give an honest and objective view of what you're talking about, then you wouldn't say, these people are pieces of shit for believing what they believe, and they're all radicals, like she started out with. So, again, I'm already going to have this different opinion of you if you immediately start out the argument with, I'm a piece of crap. Versus, like, I mean, God, at least show somebody being a piece of crap before you say it.
And I'm going to do it in business casual because no one has ever lied to anyone wearing business casual. Divine femininity encourages women to live a soft life. So low stress, lots of self-care.
But isn't low stress, she's a Marxist, isn't low stress what Marxists always talk about? Like, I want more leisure time. I want to work 1 hour a day and have someone else do labor for me.
And sourdough bread. It also really encourages us girls to just tap out of the things that are more in line with the masculine, like working a 9-to-5 job, or paying for things, or making major decisions. I like that. This creator here...
Again, this is everything communism asked for. Let's go back to that little list that she said. I don't want to have to pay for things. I don't want to have to work a 9-to-5. What about all this, like, don't go to work movement, or what do they call it? It's something for Monday. Like, you don't work as hard on Monday. I'm sure somebody will say what it is. But, like, again, don't want to work 9-to-5. Don't want to pay for things. Don't want to have a group of authoritarian dictators who make all the choices for me. This is communism. This is exactly what she wants.
That. This creator here actually talks about how in her relationship...
Well, except a lot of people die.
Her male partner is actually the leader and makes a lot of the decisions because he is more masculine and therefore better at being a leader. So I'm not going to get into the like hundreds.
But here's the funny thing. Oh, sorry, I paused it there. But she says there are hundreds of studies that are on women being better leaders. Okay, then she only shows 3. I want to see like a giant. I want to see like a list of 50 if there are like 300, 400, 500, 600 studies. Have you read all these studies? There's no way you've read that many studies. Like, only researchers who get paid to do that will do that kind of thing, or people who are writing a book.
So I'm not going to get into the like hundreds of studies that show that women and girls are...
Okay, first of all, you should be suspicious because one of the studies comes from The Guardian. The Guardian lies all the time. I think I've shown plenty of evidence of that in my videos. Let's see. Yeah. At least, I guess a good thing about these companies is that, as much as I will say negative things about The Guardian, they actually did show the study. Thank God. They did a pretty good job at linking their actual sources, and I think that is the one pretty consistent thing about The Guardian. They did that in Novara Media crap where they said, Betty Friedan said in her 500-page book this, but don't quote the page. And again, this is ridiculous because these people go to college, and if you go to college and write essays and don't cite exactly where your source is, you will get thrown out of school for plagiarism, or you will get an F on your paper. And so the fact that these people go to college where they get master's degrees and PhDs in liberal arts and all this crap like that, and then they go on the news and they don't give any citations for their resources is ridiculous. You guys are liars. So I'm very, very glad. I'm very proud of The Guardian. They actually do a pretty good job at citing the resources. And not just citing like an abstract, but they cite the entire article. That being said, let's actually look. Well, let's look at The Guardian one first. Let me pull this up here. Oh, that was one of the things I forgot to do is I'm going to have to individually pull these up from Brave because speaking of what's it, telemetry, what you call it, like I haven't figured out how to get Brave to shut up and stop giving me ad notifications during the stream. Okay, I actually might have to look at this on Brave because there's, oh, maybe not. Let's see, because like I do need the ads to be deleted because they often get in the way of the article. All right, so here, let me put myself back over here. Wasn't doing it. There we go. Stay-at-home mom makes me happier than having a job. Source, yeah, basically. Like, where are they doing these studies? Like, again, that was the most ridiculous thing ever. Is that, by the way, people don't think I don't buy these books. I do buy these books. Ugh. Oops. Actually, I need to, 1 second. There's some paperwork on this desk that has personal information on me on the floor. That was a close one. Been getting lots and lots of paperwork done recently. Oh my god. Should probably clean this area before I did the stream. Okay. So anyway, people don't think I bought, well, I've actually already bought this book years ago. This is Margaret Sanger's book. And this is The Feminine Mystique. So I could actually look at her sources, and if you look at her sources here, you can just buy the book yourself. It's at the very end of it. They're all like magazine articles, news reports, pop culture crap, or I talked to a couple people who went to high school. Like, as far as I read, I listened to 6 chapters of it because it's like I didn't have fucking 8 hours. I think I think it was 7 hours sped up to double speed to listen to the entire thing. But like I got to a point where it's like, okay, is she gonna cite any resources? She did her intro where she talked about the condition with women, didn't cite any damn resources. What makes me think she's gonna start magically citing scientific studies in chapter 7 when she didn't do it in the first 6 chapters? Oh, sorry, person in chat. They are not secondhand books. I bought them. I'm not sure. Was I dumb last year and forgot to do tax write-offs for these books? At least I can get my 25% or whatever off, or whatever my tax bracket is. But like, holy crap. Like, I do not, maybe I should start buying them secondhand. Let's see. Anyway, so for how much a lot of these people just straight up do not show their data, and how much praise this book got. When, as far as I can tell, there are 0 actual research source citations, and which makes sense because I think this is written back in the 60s, and there wasn't like a giant culture of it. Dude, the joke's on you. I've read your crap. I'm 6'2", not 6'1". All right, anyway, let's go over this. What am I doing with my notes here? There was, okay, companies with female leaders outperform those dominated by men, data shows. And then there's a very obvious contraindication here, which is they pretty much exclusively in every single study this person posted, the one from, yeah, okay, oh, well, they're hiring. Congratulations. Is that they're all massive companies. So it's like the first thing I would ask is, are these companies successful because of women, or are these companies have the extra profitability to hire a woman and that's why they're successful? So there's photo evidence of me being that tall. I'm sure that there'll be some picture of me standing next to Nick Rekieta and we're the same height. Okay, so obvious contraindication here. There's actually this study that's quoted in this article. I'd rather just go to that instead of read the Guardian's opinion on it, because that's going to be more fruitful. Was it this one? Okay. Oh my god, no. Let's see if I put it up on Brave. Every time I see these advertisements, I feel like I'm going to get spyware. That's one of the reasons why I block ads. Is it this one? No. Some areas have seen working places. Oh my God. I swear it was right at the beginning of the article. Anyway, you can I remember roughly what was in it. You guys can look at the article and read it for yourself. Here's the title of the article. But basically, it did address that contraindication. There was a second one, which is, this one was the one, yeah, the companies with female leaders outperform those dominated by men. First question, are they doing that because they have the extra leeway to hire women and that's why they're outperforming them, which at least was addressed in the study. I'm actually surprised they did that because the study was actually fairly woke sounding. The second one, which I did not see, I read at least most of it, is that, okay, well, these companies had, let's say, like you have an alcohol company and your primary audience is men, and maybe this is what some of these companies are going for, which is why you see some of this new marketing. And I've already hit market cap on as many men are going to buy my alcohol as they would ever buy. And so what I want to do next, if I'm going to increase my profit margin, is try to figure out how to advertise to females. And so what these companies might be doing is that we've already hit market cap. We're going to hire a woman in the room, so maybe she understands how their marketing, or what they would want in a beer, and then we sell more that way. Now, has it worked for alcohol companies? I don't know, but I'm imagining that's probably what happened in a lot of these companies, and that might be why there is a disparity in profit between the ones who do and the ones who don't. That doesn't mean women are better leaders. That just means that these companies were going for more market cap. So again, you actually have to see these studies, and actually this is why you can't just say study says this. You need to actually read the study, especially when it comes down to surveys. And let's get into that with the Harvard study, because one of the things I'd noticed with these leadership studies is they're very, very iffy on where they actually got the research data. Like they say, this is what our graphs say. Well, it's like, how did you come to that graph? So this is the article she quoted, but it actually was not the right article. Maybe it just had the better headline. See if it actually lets me read it on Google Chrome. Sometimes they don't. Thus, there's Brave. Okay. So research, women are better leaders during a crisis. It's weird because, let's see. They actually contradict their own study here. I'm curious whether I should actually take pictures of some of these moments while I'm doing the research so I can just go right to them, because it's very, very hard to sit. I'm not going to sit here and read a 4 to 5 minute read just to get to one part of the study. But they show this chart here, and you're kind of wondering, well, how do they get to this chart? So let's go to the actual article that the study came from. Where is it? Let's see. There we go. And then pull Brave. And here we go. So you look at these studies, and higher risk of leadership and most skills summary. First of all, the first time in history, a major political party in the United States has several women who have declared their candidacy to be their party's presidential nominee. I guess I'm really looking for not an opinion piece here. I'm looking for the study. So I'm not sure whether they accompany it with it. Just give me the data. So anyway, it says women are rated better than men on key leadership capabilities. Major issue with this study is that only went over Fortune 500 companies. Fortune 500 companies are the ones who are initiating all the woke shit. So how do you know they don't have some massive bias against men to report better results? Because I'm trying to figure out, geez, I'm going to go boomer mode for a second and increase the size of the text. I'm trying to figure out how they found out which category takes initiative more. Were they asked by their peers? Did they say, ask somebody in the office whether this person takes more initiative or not? Were they asked by their boss? Or was it self-reports? How do you know? Because if you're asking a manager and you're a super woke company that has a meeting with Robin DiAngelo next week, of course they're going to give women higher ratings. They're trying to get points. Of course, these are going to be. And by the way, these aren't even that significantly higher. One of these, so it takes initiative, resilience. I went over a study from The Guardian from years ago that showed that women are twice as prone to anxiety disorders as men. So I'm not sure. How do you get these categories again? Practices self-development. I could say women might do that more. There's a lot of self-development stuff, and I think that's actually more popular with women than it is with men. Drives for results, displays integrity and honesty, develops others, inspires and motivates others. Bold leadership. What does that mean? This means nothing. Builds relationships, champions change. Also, by the way, these categories could be specifically handpicked to pick things that women are good at. So it's like if one of the categories is more agreeable, and that's like the study, well, of course, women are on average more agreeable than men, so of course they're going to win that. So you also have to question, what do these categories even mean? Establishes stretch goals. That's some business lingo I don't understand, so what the hell is a stretch goal? Collaboration and teamwork. Connects to the outside world, whatever that means. Again, a lot of these categories really need to be described. Leadership speed. What's leadership speed? What do they mean by? How do they measure innovates? How do they measure it 51 to 54? Like what? Like a lot of this really needs to be explained. And I bet if you explain it, it would be like, I don't know. People are way too willing to take people's words for it. And oh man, someone said salt, and that just reminded me because I saw this in my cabinet. This was a gift. I did not buy this, but we are in a place where people are so uninformed about everything that they will sit there and buy. Can people see this? Let me go to full screen. They will sit here and buy non-GMO verified salt. I could not believe that I saw a non-GMO verified logo on salt. I didn't know there was GMO rocks. Monsanto's really been upping their game in the past couple of years. It's too blurry. Yeah. Hey, I don't buy Himalayan salt because it's healthier. I buy it because I like pink crystals. I don't think it's any healthier than sea salt. No, you can see the little butterfly. I don't think you can read it. My camera might not be that good. But we're in a place where people are so uninformed about some of this stuff that they will buy a thing that's not even relevant. And by the way, most people don't even know that, like, maybe some of this information has changed over the years. It's been a while since I've looked this up. But I looked this up at maybe 5 years ago or 6 years ago, and there's only like 20 GMOs, and most of them are like the usual suspects. It's like corn, soy, and wheat. Like all the things that are in the middle of the store, like all the processed foods, that's where most of the GMOs are. So, like a lot of things having non-GMO verified on it doesn't even make sense because those things don't even have GMO. Like there's no GMO that exists of that product. Like there probably isn't a GMO coconut. I think actually you would think that the trees are all the perennial plants that last more than 1 year or one season before they die. Those are all the difficult ones. And I know they're pretty sure there's GMO apples, but you think if you're trying to make as much money as possible, selling genetically altered plants, you would want to go over things that recycle every year. It's because once you grow a tree, that's it. Oh no, cuties are God, that's a not the movie, but the mandarin oranges. Those comes from trees, don't they? It's not like they don't only do annual plants, but anyway. So looking at these categories, my big question is how. Oh, sorry, I was actually in front of half of them when I was reading them. Like, how do they get these categories? And then lower down here, just to note that says takes initiative. Women are roughly 6% better at that. And then down here, there's a little graph. It says these finding overall shows that women are less likely to apply for jobs unless they're confident they meet most of the listed qualifications. A man and a woman with identical credentials, both who lack experience for a high-level position, come to different conclusions about being prepared for the promotion. So what this is saying is that women are less likely to apply for a job until they fully feel that they are ready, and men will just apply whenever. So how do you get this research here, but you have women in the category of takes initiative as higher than men? Because it sounds like if I feel like I'm less qualified, but I'm going to go for the job anyway, I'm more likely to take initiative. So that just, if you're that bad off in this category, how bad off are you on the other categories? Especially because it's your first category and you were dumb enough to bring it up in the study. Like, I understand that this isn't like a research paper, but the person writing the article for this to make money for Harvard Business Review, whether they're probably not advertiser basis, I don't see any advertisers, but for their subscribers, they didn't realize that this actually shows that women take less initiative. And they try to use it as like women are oppressed because they aren't as confident. And why is confidence in here? Because like being confident that you'll succeed whether you're qualified or not, like confidence isn't in here. Like confidence is a very important leadership skill. I think it's more important than leadership speed. It's at least more important than that, whatever the hell that means. I mean, you can use an idea called speed of implementation, which is kind of an important thing. It's like how long does it take after you've learned a new thing to implement it? And a lot of people, that's never, which is kind of the issue. But I don't know what this means. This doesn't mean anything. So how did you get this data? Where's the data? Maybe it's in one of these links. Please don't give me spyware. Nope, it's just a link to another article. So see how this looks like research, but it's not actually research? This looks like a study. It would fool most people. I can't believe this shit fools people who go to college. Oh, great, now the donations are over my face. I can't believe this shit fools people who go to college. Because in college, none of this would be acceptable. Are people like... I had to take statistics class to pass. I mean, again, what's her name? Ash Sarkar had a master's degree. You definitely have to read research to have a master's degree. You have to write a dissertation, a master's thesis, and you have to actually have studies behind that. Let's read some of the chats. Take a little chat break. I think I've already read this. A bunch of random letters super chatted $2. Put this up here so that way at least your name is shown. Thank you for the $2. Jerusalem Tech and Games $5 super chat. For some reason it's bad when her or the husband does it, but it's good when Daddy Gumbit does it. Yeah. Responding to the well, we haven't even finished the video. The girl here is saying that that it's wrong for women to not want to work and get things paid for, but it's okay when the government does that. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. Moro, is that how you pronounce it? 550 super chats. Are the people who want to destroy the family purposely evil or blissfully ignorant? Is the main purpose to keep the population down? I think this would probably count as someone who's ignorant. She has a very, very small TikTok following. It's not like with things like Novara Media, I think that's actually fairly intentional. Like it's a big organization. They have funders that have narratives and stuff like that. So I think they very, very much are a little bit more nefarious than someone like this who just went to college and believes it and is trying to do what she thinks is best. So it's a little bit of both. Keeping the population... Well, I think the main purpose is probably to install an authoritarian government. I'm not exactly sure why there's such a big initiative to down the population. But that doesn't make sense to me. A lot of things will get worse when that happens, especially people who put their investments into Social Security and there's going to be no money. So I don't know, just in terms of financial advice, from what I've always been told from advisors, you always take your own investments into your own hands. Never let other people deal with your money. There needs to be some sort of minimum level of investigation to things that you're investing in before you put money into it. Magpie Mary, left-leaning boss girl hero. You are. I don't know if I can read that one. I'll just put it on screen. Thank you. What is it? Oh, that's what was getting moved because I was putting my head where the chat was, and I was moving that other places. All right. Anyway, so we did these. There's one more here.
Girls are far more effective leaders typically than boys and...
Though I'm kind of bored of looking at it. So it's a 3,000 managers. I think it had the same problem. One were better leaders. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I think that one had the same problems with it. It's like they're doing Fortune 500 companies where they obviously have a bias. I don't think there's anything new in that one. If you care, that's a study. You can go look at it yourself.
Men, but I will ask you, where do you think this idea of masculinity being tied to leadership is?
But by the way, I want to point out that I love her choice of song there. It's Chopin. And it's the Chopin song that they always play during the most messed up scenes in movies. Like, if someone's gonna die, they're gonna die to Chopin. If something like if the mob boss is getting shot down, he's gonna get shot down to Chopin. I think that's the fairly well recognized TV trope is that was this Nocturnes or whatever that always gets played during all the messed up scenes. Anyway,
coming from if it's not coming from the science. It's coming from the leaders typically than boys and men. But I will ask you, where do you think this idea of masculinity being tied to leadership is coming from if it's not coming from the science? It's coming from the Bible.
That's weird. That's really weird. I don't know. Has she ever been on a date with a woman before? Because, like, I don't think I've ever been on a date where a chick didn't demand leadership. Have any of you? I mean, I guess there are some situations where people are girl bossing. I've even seen situations where people are girl bossing who demand leadership from men. I've seen cases where in college we would ask questions like this sometimes in like psychology classes where it's like, raise your hand if you expect men to pay for the first date. And I would watch hyper-feminist chicks raise their hand saying that the man has to pay for the first date. Well, okay, then you want leadership. Because that's what leadership is taking the initiative first. Anyway.
And the mainstream
Gloria Steinem was my Bible. Great.
Of Christian values into day-to-day American society. And one of those values is the evangelical doctrine of male headship, which basically implies that in a nuclear family, the wife is to submit to the husband and the husband is to submit to Jesus. But since we all know that Jesus ain't exactly bopping around, essentially the husband doesn't have to submit to anyone.
What? Yeah, but it's his fault if the relationship goes. If this structure is true, where is it? So wife takes over the children, husband takes over the children and the wife, and then he is governed by Christ. You can take a very atheistic perspective in this case and just say that the community is going to be pretty mad if the guy dips out or raises screwed up children. So if you're the leader, you're accountable for every bad thing that happens. So if you're the follower, at least you're only accountable for your mistakes if you're the follower. If you're the leader, you're accountable for your mistakes and all of your followers' mistakes. So you actually have more responsibility, which is why oftentimes people don't want to be leaders. It's because it's a heavy burden and a heavy responsibility to be a leader. Terrible illustration. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to go over like the umbrella insurance policy or something like that there. That's why they did that. Source enough light? Is it supposed to be research or is it just like, here's where I got the picture? It's nice of her if it's just where she got the picture.
But since we all know that Jesus ain't exactly bopping around, essentially the husband doesn't have to submit to anyone. Unless he has a dominatrix on the side, which he probably does because Christian men hate themselves.
That is true. Sorry, that is actually true.
So my personal take is that this whole divine feminine,
like, there's degeneracy all around, and she's probably pretty right. Sex worker, she's probably pretty right about that.
Femininity thing has come about as a reaction to some of the pitfalls of contemporary modern feminism. The girl boss feminism of the
oh god, Sheryl Sandberg. Okay, let's go to the Sheryl Sandberg thing. Remember this? Any of you guys ever see this clip? Where is it? Did I not say? Oh, there it is. It just wasn't highlight. Well, I've been lucky not to get a Brave ad here. Guys, this is how long it takes to break down one video. You do it so fast when you do it in a scripted video. So let's see. I'm still like super clumsy with this stuff, but do you remember Sheryl Sandberg saying this in the Ban Bossy campaign and her postmodernist thinking?
How do you communicate authentically? How do you figure out what to say and what not to say in a way that's authentic? And what Fred says, and I really believe this is true, is it starts from the fundamental understanding that there is no truth. There's my truth, there's your truth, that everything is subjective.
You remember her saying that? Oh. It's like a little lizard thing going on there. I remember having to cut that out of the video. Let's see. Anyway. There it is. Jeez. So, lean in, and that little, like title there. At least my smile wasn't worse. Hers is pretty horizontal. That's pretty bad if you've got a worse one than I do. It's very like real. Anybody see that South Park episode with the real estate agent where they like always have to like cross their arms and like go back like that? And actually, it's fairly correct. I've seen a bunch of real estate ads like that since then. She's prepping for Mark Zuckerberg with that tongue thing that she did. Yeah, I know I can turn Brave ads off. I just couldn't figure out how to do it before the stream. Let's see.
The 2010s pushed us to be equal earners, if not even sometimes the breadwinner.
Wells Fargo. Wasn't there some sort of scandal Wells Fargo did a bunch of years ago, like back in 2017, where they screwed a bunch of people over? I'm pretty sure that was Wells Fargo. I don't know what Hanlon's razor is.
But at the end of the day, women are still responsible for the majority of unpaid and emotional labor that goes.
Okay, I looked at the CBS thing that she gave, and it led to, as far as I'm aware, absolutely nothing. Again, the source is on screen. If you guys really want to check, you can check it yourself. But the Huffington Post, as usual in good form, Huffington Post loves to misinterpret data and forget not fairly interpreted data. Well, as usual, the Huffington Post does the typical thing. I will say it's hard not to preempt things when you're streaming than it is to do it when you're scripted. So I will give them credit for that. So I'm going to eat my own words from what I said earlier on the stream. Where's the article? Oh. I want to play the lottery and see if I don't get burn people's ears out with a Brave ad. Because I'm tired of having to transfer it over. Okay. Women spend a whopping extra 15 working days on unpaid labor compared to men. Things haven't really changed that much, eh? Wow, that's like a very sassy article. I don't see why they need the subtitles. That doesn't make sense. I mean, sometimes this subtitle doesn't actually add anything to the title. That's just like, here's my bias. You've come back from oh God, I cannot stand when articles start like this. They got to stop writing like this. This is not a book. You're not describing this. The reason books do this is because they're describing scenery that you can't see. There's no scenery that needs to be seen here. Anyway, you've come back from a long day of work. The house is a tip. What? That must be some other. Is this from a different country? And dinner is yet to be cooked. House chores are not fun, but someone has to do them. When you live with your partner, these things should be split between the two. Okay, what's the actual living situation here? Because if he's working 50 hours a week or 40 hours a week and you're not working, then you should do pretty much most of the house chores. However, that's not the case in practice. Women are still finding themselves doing the vast majority of unpaid labor in the home, according to new research conducted by a washing machine company. So that's not going to be biased. I'm not going to click on that because I'm afraid of getting some sort of ad or something like that, but I'm pretty sure that was a washing machine company. You guys can risk your own computers for that. Let's see. And the figures are eye-watering. Okay, are eye-watering. Women are spending at least 15 hours completing unpaid work every single day, or every work week. Sorry, my bad. Terrible reading. This includes, oh, here, let me help you guys out. This includes activities such as childcare, gardening, cleaning, cooking, doing laundry, and other household responsibilities. Anybody notice the very, very obvious contraindication here? Outside of if you're doing an average, did you average out between hours? Like, are they both working 40-hour work weeks? Ignoring that, isn't there something missing here? There's something missing here, right? Like, who lubes the garage? Who cleans out the rain gutters? Who takes out the trash? Who fixes the baseboard? Hangs new light fixtures? Assembles the furniture? Who fixes the car? How come none of that shit's here? What are other household responsibilities? It seems they only mention the female chores. Always they do that. And by the way, when they do this up here, look at the framing. Because when you actually look down here, men are only doing 2 fewer hours a week. Or 2.5 fewer hours. 2.6 hours versus 12.6 hours versus 15 hours. That's really not that big of a difference. And this is assuming that they're working the same work week. What if he works 45 hours a week and she works 20 hours a week? Well, then he's doing way more work than her. According to new research that is totally not biased, we swear. Yeah, again, like, let me see. Let me just click on it. Fuck it. That just, yeah. So I couldn't find the article. I'm going to regret clicking this. But it's a washing machine company. So they're totally not biased. They totally don't market to women because these are traditionally female chores. And it doesn't show the study. They just showed the, so wait. I think I found it. Was this an advertisement for their website? I think that's it. That's probably what happened. I click the back button. Did that work? That did not work. I think that this was because they didn't actually show the research. They just advertised the company. So that's totally not biased. We found out that our new medical intervention works 100% of the time. Source, we told you so. So there's not going to be any sort of like biased interpretation of numbers or again, like category selection, like they can specifically pick categories that women are naturally known to be better than, and then just say that those are all the standard leadership categories. When what they should be doing, by the way, when they have these leadership categories, let me pull this back up. What you need to actually do to determine these surveys, which I'm betting they didn't do, they could have done it, but I'm betting they didn't do this, is have a objective agreement between a bunch of different. Is that subjective or objective? Well, a bunch of, let's say a preponderance of agreements between a bunch of different high-level researchers that would say, here are the 5 traits of leadership, and that's how we're going to determine this. Not these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, roughly 20 different categories. Like, what are the big traits of leadership? We all agree on this as a whole. Or as a general, now we're going to research based on those categories to see who's better at them. Versus, like, we made up these categories for this study, which is, I think, what happened. Like, if you're going to do, like, I was just watching a Jordan Peterson thing on, like, dark triad research. I think those things have been established for a while. And so you're going to say, well, I'm going to do research based on the dark triad of sociopathy, sadomasochism, and narcissism. I think I'm missing. Is it Machiavellianism, sadomasochism, and narcissism? I'm probably getting that wrong. Anybody saying anything interesting in the chat? I bench over 260. You can probably bench 260 as a natural bodybuilder, can't you? And I feel like in the 300s, you probably need to use steroids for that. In my unprofessional opinion. So, source citation, a washing machine company that totally is not biased and doesn't count all the male chores and doesn't seem to, like, I can't read the study, so how am I supposed to know if they actually factored in equal amounts of work? Or what if, even, like, you can, here's how you can fuck with a study. So I can say that wife's job is 20 hours, husband's job is 20 hours, wife drives 5 minutes to work, husband drives an hour and a half to work. Now, if I only look at the metric for how much time they're working, it looks like they're working an equal amount, but actually the husband's working 3 hours more than her. I resent that. I have not played Smash Brothers in a while. I'm probably terrible at that game now. Let's see. So, let's continue. Holy crap. We spent probably a good 40 minutes on this video, on a 3-minute video. Wasn't that wonderful? This is how long it actually... This is why people don't do the research, because it takes a long time to go through these actual studies. And then, especially when they do these stupid partial citations, like this isn't the citation. Oh, sorry, I'm not even going it. This isn't a source citation. This is a second-hand source. Secondary source is what they call it. I need the actual study. So I can't just read this article. I actually have to go read into the article and then do multiple reference links to find out what she's talking about. Oftentimes, you have to go to 3 or 4 different places to find the actual study. Anyway.
Goes on in the home and in their communities, and women are fucking...
Women's unpaid labor is worth... Is that trillion? What does that mean? How do they factor that in? Well, notice it's an opinion.
Tired, they're burnt out. And while opting out in certain capacities can be empowering and even like a fuck you to capitalism...
Told you she was a commie.
The Christian right, in particular, is really banking on the fact that women will continue to opt out more and more so that we become kind of pushed to the perimeter of society and they're able to advance their extremist anti-women agenda, which is essentially what they've done. If your spiritual practice relies on such patriarchal ideas about gender that you somehow end up in alignment with the Christian right, you are on the New Age spirituality to alt-right pipeline.
So I don't know. For those of you who watched the video about Novara Media, like, does this look any different from that video? It's like, here's a bunch of. I mean, I guess in her defense, she actually cited the resources, and I was actually able to find what she was talking about. Versus Novara Media, a company that has a ton of employees, has 24 employees, as far as I can tell, could not cite any actual research. Could not cite me the exact data. 24 employees plus a person with a master's degree doing the study or doing the talking. Could not cite the actual sources. So at least she did that. But as far as like, in terms of like, well, this, how do we know this says that? Well, Novara Media did that thing and I didn't notice it. I'd actually go back and re-record it where it's like, they were talking about domestic violence, or not domestic, abuse victims in terms of financial abuse. And they didn't discuss that was the category in the Novara Media thing, but they didn't talk about like, they said 30% of women who are in an abusive relationship have their money controlled by the man. And they gave pretty much they said it was from Women's Aid, but they gave no actual citation of what it was. And then I go and look at it, and the study only has 72 people. Like, holy crap, that is such a low number. Like, one of the studies that she cited, again, I'll compliment her like I compliment The Guardian. This girl is actually pretty decent at citing sources. I think the Harvard study had like 40 to 60,000 people. That's a good, in terms of population size, that's a good population size. 72 people, because Women's Aid is a British organization. I think the population of Britain is 67 million from what I looked in. I just didn't discuss it in the video because it was taking too long to make the video. You're going to take 72 people and have that describe a population of 67 million? No way. I mean, for the FDA in America, I believe you have to test over 10,000 people on a drug. So, and that's something that's far more difficult than to say, hey, fill out this survey. Which I've done survey research before. I was required to do it for my major, and it literally takes probably 30 seconds to fill out a survey. Now, of course, if it's more like integrated, it's going to take maybe 30 minutes. Let's for how long it took to fill out those surveys. It doesn't take very long versus like testing a drug or doing something more difficult. So the fact they only got 72 people, especially as an organization that specializes in helping abuse victims, is ridiculous. They should have gotten way more than that. So, and then she ends it off with, if you like traditional households, you're alt-right, you're a misogynist, you're a transphobe, you're all these bad things that people on the left hate. Well, let's say radical left. I think the people in the center left are figuring out that this stuff is all very, very dishonest. I guess I do have to apologize for preempting BuzzFeed, or not BuzzFeed, Huffington Post. Well, actually, it is BuzzFeed. Huffington Post and The Guardian with bad words because I said not to do that. But I'm sure you guys have seen some of these things. I probably shouldn't have preempted it with that. I probably should just went over the data. But anyway, I'm so sick of those outlets lying. I'm so glad that BuzzFeed is gone, or should be gone. Is it? The woke buzzwords. Yeah, I think BuzzFeed bought out Huffington Post, and then I'm pretty sure they were two separate companies. Wasn't the Huffington Post started by the guy who started Breitbart? Or he was like a mutual founder? Anyway. Oh, God. Why don't we get into this? Because I read this book here. Let's see if it comes up on screen. Oh, my lights are getting in the way. The Pivot of Civilization by Margaret Sanger, and I knew this for years before Planned Parenthood finally denounced Margaret Sanger. And again, I went to college. I'm sure some of you went to college, and they probably don't do this now, since finally in 2020 or something like that, they acknowledged that Margaret Sanger was actually a really bad person. I watched plenty of things on Margaret Sanger, how great she was for women's liberation and everything like that. And they just seem to forget, wasn't she like tangentially related, like was having meetings with the KKK, was incredibly racist, was incredibly against black people and looking for reasons to sterilize them. Well, I didn't read this book again for the video because I read it probably 7 or 8 years ago, and it was very, very boring, very, very hard to get through. But I remembered at the end, in the appendix, let's see, it's right there. Probably should have left the card in there. I actually smashed a bug on it on accident, so if you can't see this fully, but yeah, in the appendix here, at the end, page 221 in this version of the book. And by the way, if you look at the video, I did cite that as the research. I not only showed the version of the book it's in, I said it's at the very end in the appendix and gave the exact page number you can find it, so I don't have to sit there and read an entire boring-ass book to find the one thing that you looked for or that you were quoting. And if I sound triggered, like, for those of you who've been to college, you'll know that like they are super insistent on this shit. Like you will fail your class. You'll fail your class, and you might actually get charged with plagiarism, which will get you expelled from the school. Was that true about Margaret Sanger? I'm not going to say it, but it'd be funny. Okay, so these are all it says the appendix, the principles and aims of the American Birth Control League. This is what they're looking for in terms of birth control. Sorry if that came up blurry. But I highlight this part here, and I might actually I'm just going to go to these screen grab. That's easier than showing the book. It's also easier to read, too. Let me get to the screen grab that I used for the video. But, like, can I get 2 of these? Yes, I can. Thank God. Sometimes, like, I don't like how Windows doesn't let you open up 2 instances of Word in terms of the same Word document. Okay. Let me go back over here. That was the donation thing. Oh, my God. I think I fixed it. Nope. There we go. Nope, that also didn't fix it. Is this entertaining, me spending all this time fidgeting with this stuff? But if you... Let me full screen this too. I mean, you can read all this stuff. Some of this stuff is like very inconsequential. So to collect the findings of scientists concerning the relations of reckless breeding and evils of delinquency and defect dependence. Ooh, what does this mean? Is she anti-promiscuity? Because certainly a lot of her proteges are very, very, like, I do remember this book talking about reckless behavior in terms of birthing and stuff like that, like people having kids and not taking any sort of a form of birth control or resistance, and just having kids when they were extremely impoverished. And you can sort of relate to that, but this part here, oh my God, this shit is super authoritarian. And understand that you don't read this stuff. What's Apple psychology? Apple Eugenics? Anyway, you read this stuff, and I would read this in the interpretation of the person reading it. So insane and feeble-minded. Feeble-minded means like Down syndrome, but it can also mean stupid. Insane would be like, oh, you've got some sort of like you've got schizophrenia. Even schizophrenia doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a kid who grows up with it. But they're talking about people in mental hospitals, right? Now, imagine what those terms change into over time, because language is always an evolving thing. And so if you leave such a broad and wide open term like insane, feeble-minded is a little bit less broad. I think they specifically meant people who are mentally retarded or people who had Down syndrome. So mental disability in terms of the new legal language. It's funny that the person who was in charge, like Rosa's Law, did not know what the word meant when they did it. It was really funny. But that had a pretty specific meaning. But this doesn't have a specific meaning. And how many times didn't they clinically diagnose Trump as insane on the news? And so if you could do that because they didn't like you, how many people could we diagnose as insane because you don't like them? And use this principle. Let's say this got ratified into law. Use this principle to sterilize tons of people we don't like. Because I don't think there's a day that goes by, at least in terms of mainstream media. Maybe it's a little bit more honest in independent media, though not always. Is there a day in mainstream media where where the right isn't calling the left insane, the left isn't calling the right insane? So or people have heard this. Well, how do you know someone's insane? Oh, they vote Democrat or they vote Republican. You could easily use this to whatever party's in power to sterilize their opponents, easily. And then you say, of the sterilization of the insane and feeble-minded, and encouragement of this operation upon those. Oh, it just says encouragement. At least that's not forced. Of this operation upon. By the way, if you have trisomy 3 and you're a male, you're actually sterilized. So I think women can have babies when they have Down syndrome, but men can't. Or they can't. They don't produce potent sperm, I guess. Encouragement of this operation upon those afflicted with inherited or transmissible diseases with the understanding that sterilization does not. Okay, how do you? This is assuming the best intentions, by the way. So if you have inherited or transmissible diseases, so if you, again, we mentioned that Margaret Sanger was very, very against a certain group of people, and that certain group of people has a genetic disease called sickle cell anemia. And in order to get sickle cell anemia, it's where I believe it's a defense against malaria, which it works great because malaria is pretty prominent in Africa. So it takes your cell that's round and makes it like in a sickle shape, and that sickle shape suffocates out the malaria and makes you more survivable. The issue is if you get two parents who carry this disease, you get immunity. I'm not full. It's been a while since I've been taught this stuff. You get some sort of immunity issues that make it very, very hard to live. I think it also may result in early death. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But you could easily use that as an excuse to sterilize people with sickle cell anemia. And now and by the way, people who don't have the disease, people who are just carriers of it, now you can sterilize everybody with that. So how many other things would you be able to do to sterilize people? And this is why you need to read world history. I did a video on a Indian leader named Indira Gandhi where she was like, oh, the Indian population's too high. We're going to start sterilizing people. And that's where this is under the best intentions. Understanding that this sterilization does not deprive the individual of his or her sexual expression or sex expression, but merely renders him incapable of, why does it say him? Why is it just him? So what is this? They're already sterile. So I don't know why this says. It should say him or her. Incapable of producing children. Do any of the methods of birth control or sterilization work in isolation? I think the only way to do that genetically is to have a pill. Isn't CRISPR working on that, where they can target pills to your genetics? So it's like you take a pill, you're of this certain genetic profile, and that pill only goes to the area it's supposed to. Whereas pills these days genuinely go everywhere. I don't think all pills are like that, but if you're taking like an ibuprofen, it's going to go everywhere, and it's not going to but versus I'm going to give you an ibuprofen that only goes to your hand, so it doesn't affect the system in general. Who knows what the unintended consequences are of depriving someone of their ability to have kids, while also not depriving of their sex drive, without also not causing a load of other issues. Like, you can take birth control and get acne. You can take birth control and become attracted to different people, as far as what people are saying. I got to source that. I got to be very careful what I say, because I got to source that to all that stuff. But that's to say that whether that's true or not, there's still complications to birth control that don't just say, oh, it doesn't just sterilize. Didn't they have like the Yasmin or whatever, the male birth control that caused all sorts of problems with men? So it's not just about that. This is fantasy technology. And I believe India operated on that with Indira Gandhi, where she was, I believe, sterilizing her political opponent. She's like, oh, I never forced anybody to do it. I just said that they're not going to be able to get jobs or get their paychecks if they don't do it. I never forced anybody. They could have said no. They could have just gone hungry. And I believe it resulted in a bunch of botched sterilizations, and it resulted in, don't quote me on this, but I believe it was millions of people losing their lives because of botched sterilizations. And this was back in the 1970s or 80s. Somewhere between the 60s and the 80s. Again, this is all off the top of my head. Get started in Raid Shadow Legends today? Exactly. This guy knows what's up. Okay. Oh, God, that's already an hour. Just running by. There's so much I had to talk about. So a lot of this stuff is the usual suspects. I don't know if I like the term fatherless behavior. It seems kind of like it blames the person who's the victim of some toxic mother who chose a bad partner, and also some guy who left his kid. So it's a situation where both parents are bad. But it's like, if you really want to promote distrust in relationships and you want people to not get along, just promote single motherhood. Just promote broken relationships. Because no shock, Aaron Bastani and the two people I researched on Novara Media are both single parent households. Let's pull that up. I need like a Jamie or something like that. I need someone behind the scenes hitting this shit. Because otherwise this is going to take a while. So be a little patient. So I found this interview with Ash. Why do they always got to mention their race? Can it just be people? Let's see. Please no ads. I need like 40,000 things popping up on the screen. I don't think there's any good position for me. I'm tempted to take myself off the screen. Okay, this is some sort of like, again, how are you not mainstream? You're getting all these interviews. You're going on. She went on Piers Morgan. That's where she said, "I'm literally a communist." How are you getting these if you're not involved with these people? Because their channel is not impressive. I don't think, has she written anything impressive? Has she written a book? I don't think she's written a book. There's some irrelevant crap. This is a video fail. I was trying to point out that she was Muslim, not criticizing. By the way, tons of people who are Muslim in the comments so far have been like, "This chick's not a Muslim. She doesn't practice any of the principles of it." But so do it what you like with that information. But I went down here to like tangentially approve that she was a Muslim when it just says it up here. So a bit of a video fail there. But this article is huge, so blame that as opposed to my inadequacies. So let's just go and see how we have the usual suspects. So this is interviewing the person who was in my most recent video. Why don't I show it on screen just in case? Again, this is a pretty new video, so not to assume everybody's seen it. Let me mute that. This video here. This one. There we go. So if you haven't seen it, this is the person who's in the article. and they're interviewing her, who's literally communist, who has a merch shop with jewelry that says "I'm a communist," has a T-shirt shop that's with marks on it, and are selling stuff. So like, how communist are you if you're using a bunch of different capitalist principles to succeed? You can't be that communist. Okay, there we go. Back to where we were. So they're asking about her faith, and this is where she gets into her family life, and can at least be down here. That's again the donation box. I'm gonna figure that out. I'll just move myself out of the way if I need to. Is that a cultural identity? She's talking about Islam, or is Islam different from Muslim? Is that a cultural identity or a faith commitment? A bit of both. So every single person in my family has had a marriage which is mixed by race or religion. Every single person. And I wanted my mom wanted to encourage me towards Hinduism. Actually, let me bring this up again so I'm actually looking at the camera. Duplicate that. We'll see if that works well. And my mom wanted to encourage me towards Hinduism because that was my father's religion, and he wasn't in her lives. So, and I think she wanted me to feel some sense of connection. Why? Well, maybe he died, but it seems like he left her, from what I was reading. That never really worked, just by Ash's demeanor towards men. I'm pretty sure the guy left as opposed to died. That never really worked, and one of the reasons why was because all the women in my family are Muslim, and I saw them being strong, educated, funny, sexually progressive. Again, I've read the Quran, but I don't know that much about the actual practices of Muslims. Is this something that fits in sexually progressive? Does that mean like you're having sex with multiple partners? She doesn't. They have do they have polygamy in Islam? What does it mean? Let me read the chat. They're the Hindus and the Hindons. So what does sexually progressive mean? And so I didn't associate Islam with any of the patriarchal trappings. Just conveniently didn't, but we'll shit on Christianity for that, which I know exists for a lot of other people. There weren't enough men in my family for there to be patriarchal dynamic. Well, that's kind of a problem, isn't it? So no male influences. Let's see. Then I went through that late teens. This person's definitely trying to advertise that they went to college. Then I went to that like late teens. I've reached Richard Dawkins' once kind of phase. As I read Richard Dawkins' once kind of phase. I've heard that name, but I haven't read any of this stuff though. And I went, nah, religion is really stupid. I mangled the Marx quote about it being the opiate of the peoples. Is mangled a word? Maybe it's a British term. And I forgot the preceding bit, the heart of a heartless world. And then her grandmother died, and then she became religious. I don't know. Did she do any research into Marx? Marx is like a really bad person. I was listening to Razorfist yesterday, and he was talking about, hey, you know, Abraham Lincoln was actually a really bad guy, and he gets a lot of positive credit and positive attributions in history. He's like, yeah, I did know that. People don't know that the Emancipation Proclamation didn't actually free any slaves. It's like, well, we're gonna, like, basically the Emancipation Proclamation was like, let's see, I'm gonna write a document that says I'm gonna free all the slaves in Antarctica. Like, he was freeing slaves in territory he didn't really have control over. So it's like, yeah, congratulations, guy. Oh, hey, I missed some super chats. Let's go over some of these before we continue into the article. So basically, just sum up, very, very little male influences. Broken family, has a stepfather who she argues with because she doesn't politically agree with. Wonder what those arguments are like. Seeing how she treats people publicly, where if you disagree with her, you're alt-right, misogynist, transphobe, a horrible person. You believe conspiracy theories that are wrong. Anyway, Death God 114, $2 super chat. Gotta love some of women's lack of self-awareness. Frederick the Gross. Is that double S sound in German? $5 super chat. Hey, longtime viewer, just wanted to say I love what you're doing, showing awareness over these issues when others won't. Hope my donation helps. It does help. I know a lot of people are actually showing awareness of some of these issues. Leah Lockwood, a very prescient message. You have it. Is that not going up there? I think it is going up there. You have a similar smirk to Scarlett Johansson. Is that because I just watched Lucy last night? Lucy's one of my... I've only seen Lucy once, but it's a very, very good, like, bad movie. And then BNZA1, $10 super chat. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Yeah, Lucy was a fun watch where it's, for those who haven't seen it, it's a movie where a Scarlett Johansson gets exposed to a drug that makes her super intelligent, and for some reason she gets all these, like, psionic powers that weren't really well explained. She can, like, levitate people and crap like that and do a bunch of stuff that doesn't exist. I wish they were more scientific about that. It really seems like that movie should have been 2 hours and got a little bit more into, like, philosophy. That's very much a movie that could have been a very great movie, but it was just not not well executed. And there were a lot of things that seemed like, oh, well, this person has to be there because, and she can't destroy this person here because he needs to be over here for the plot. So some things didn't make sense in that movie. Married when he was 11, very clever. I was trying to figure out, because she made some comments about some person in political office going to private school, and then I looked at her schooling kind of changed when she became 11. It looked like she went to private school, but also I did some other research that looked like it was a public school. It would really have been funny if she actually went to private school and she was criticizing someone for going to private school. Here's the big one. Here's a little bit of meat. Again, this is why this person has a... Again, this is why someone like this would show only negative examples of men, where it's like, I'm making this video and, well, women do all this great work where they... turn the kids into powerhouses. They make sure that the house is spotless, cook the best meals ever, and then give a bunch of horrible representations of men. It's like, well, I can cook these great meals. My boyfriend's is a dumbass who eats the... God, do I have to show this? I feel like I do. No, because I don't remember what part of the video it's in. But my boyfriend's a dumbass who will eat off the baking whisk. And like so many examples that they made men look stupid in that, and I don't think there were any positive examples of men. It was either that or it was some person from the manosphere they were saying an opinion they disagree with, and there was like Adam22 talking about weird degeneracy shit that I didn't show in the video because it was irrelevant. Anyway, where's this? We are reading from here. Well, that was helpful. Oh my God, boomer levels of ability here. Anyway, what values did your mom instill in you? Because of her own economic... God, why do these people have to use big words? Nobody knows what that word means. Do I have to sit here and look up what precarity? I'm going to pretend like my IQ is like 40 and look this up. The state of being precautious... I mean, I guess it's not that big of a word, but how many of you knew that word? How many of you knew this word? One's in the chat if you knew what that word meant. Two's in the chat if you're dumb like me. Not Homelander? Homelander's a great villain. Like, it's so funny to, like, not just him, but Omni-Man or like the evil super... Yeah, full of twos. Stop using words people don't understand. And again, that video was full of like 3. I'm gonna count that as a 2. Of like big words and maybe things like the word neoliberalism means something different in Britain, but I've never heard it. Like if I'm gonna say like Tory, like is that a Republican? So maybe neoliberalism means something in the British language, but like there were so many words that were used in that documentary, in that video about trad wives, that it's like, you understand that your audience, like, if you're treating your audience like fucking morons, and I have to use that language because like only people who are stupid would not see this stuff, or people who are trying to indoctrinate, they don't understand these words. So you're using strategies like, I'm not going to show the study. I'm going to insult my opponents to a crazy degree. I'm going to use propaganda techniques to make one side look really, really bad and make the other side look really, really good. I'm going to make like far associations, like saying that trad wives watch Nick Fuentes. Are you fucking kidding me? Does Nick Fuentes have any female viewers? And you're going to relate them to that? And maybe the best association there was Jordan Peterson, but they're going to relate trad wives to Andrew Tate? No. They don't watch Andrew Tate. Not all of us eat a thesaurus. God, that's a hard word to say, isn't it? Thesaurus. There we go. Those TH sounds. I feel so vindicated when people who speak foreign languages can't pronounce any of the TH sounds. Like I spent a lot of time hearing Liz, the wizard Liz, say therapy instead of therapy. I'm just glad I'm not the only person who has trouble pronouncing TH sounds. I was listening to somebody else who couldn't pronounce the word 30, so he would say turdy. That wasn't supposed to be there. Actually, well, it's just the same interview, just in a different browser. Where's my thing? There we go. It's hard because I had to look at the camera and do all this crap like that. Anyway, precarity, right? Like precaution. Because of her own economic precarity, and also because she was a social worker working with really dysfunctional families and long-term victims of abuse. Again, just because you see something a lot, kind of have to do it this way. Just because you see something a lot doesn't mean it's actually the case. Like, I can see a lot of really, really toxic women. Doesn't mean that every chick's toxic. I can see a lot of toxic men. Doesn't mean that every single guy is toxic. Like, I'm so tired of these arguments where it's like, oh, I've been in the worst case scenario, and therefore every case is like that. So I'm going to give you advice based on the worst case scenarios. My mom was very much like, you only let a man fuck with you so much. You've got to make sure that you aren't financially dependent on a man ever. Okay. Have fun with that. Because that will mean he has power over you. Oh, well, there's not one situation in a relationship where someone doesn't have power over you. You can make a similar amount of money, and you're always going to have power over the person in the relationship, because if you break up and that person doesn't want to break up, they're going to be pretty pissed about that. That's power. And you can often hold a breakup over someone's head. Or you can hold your fidelity over someone's head. How many guys have been fucked over by like girls who are like, oh, I really like this girl, but I don't know if I can get another one, and she wants to be in an open relationship because she doesn't find me sexually attractive anymore. I'm just going to let her do it. You don't think that's power? That's not economic power. Okay, anyway. I'll read that later. I'll read that after this segment. So you can only let a man screw with you so much. Make sure you're never financially dependent on a man, because that will mean he has power over you. Oh, okay. Then you're just saying all men are abusive, and which is really stupid, because anybody can be abusive anywhere. It's almost, you think like, whether they're poor, whether they're rich. And sometimes, like, oh, a poor person, like an abusive poor person will beat the crap out of you, and an abusive rich person will ruin your, will harass you and stalk you. So it's not the money. It's, hey, don't date abusive people. If you find yourself in a pattern, get some therapy, read some books, try to break that pattern, and certainly don't marry someone who shows abusive tendencies. You can at least identify that, whether if you're trying to break your attraction to it or not. At least you can objectively say, hey, this person's doing an abusive thing. And I may be attracted to that, but I'm not going to marry that. I'm not going to be in a long-term relationship with that. The other thing she taught me was about pride in your skin. That sounds kind of racist. Or at least if I was prideful of my skin color, I'd be called racist. This is inappropriate. When I was 13, she got me and my sister each a copy of Black Skin and White Masks. I don't know what that is. And whenever Naomi Campbell was on the cover of anything, my mom bought it and brought it home, including Playboy. She covered up the nipples. This is another place where it'd be great for like a lie by omission. But did she cover the bottom part too? Where's the rest of this? There. She wanted us to have an analysis of racism and what it does to you. What did she have to show you Playboy for that for? She wanted us to have an analysis of racism and what it does to you psychologically, but she also wanted us to have images of pride and power and beauty and sexuality. I guess, like, is Naomi Campbell, what race is she? have to be very careful with this because I don't want to get like stuff that's going to get kicked off of YouTube. Is she black or Middle Eastern? Because I know Ash is Middle Eastern. She's from Pakistan, apparently. At least as far as this article says. Okay. Anyway. I'm not sure how, why your mom thinks pornography is aspirational to be in. So, I don't think it's super, super appropriate to be going over pornography articles with your kids. I mean, certainly you can talk about sex at 13, but like, I don't know. There's already enough hypersexualization from porn anyway. Let's see. Anything more? Psychology. Yeah, there was some crap about like. Where is it? Here. Let's end with the finish the article with this. Can white people ever? Let me make sure that you guys can see this. Can white people ever actually grasp to what it feels like to be on the receiving end of racism? The answer should be yes, not no. Why isn't the answer yes? I mean, just from a statistical standpoint, because white people aren't impacted. Like, if I use this argument and I go to a Middle Eastern country, if I go to Japan, if I go to India, and now some other race is the majority, like, I can't experience racism there because I was born a certain way, isn't that kind of fucked up? Like, I was born a certain way, therefore I can't go through certain experiences. But you guys can. Seems like really unempathetic. Yeah, her mother does sound very toxic, doesn't she? She sounds like the exact type of person who would pick a guy who would leave her. And, like, is there an extent where it's like, how can you blame them? Because, like, again, if you watch that video, there's all sorts of, like, demeaning representations of men. But her boyfriend's a male. Like, did you not see that she did that, or she had that? She was a part of that video, and you're like, I'm dating this girl, and she made me look stupid. Actually, this is the point where it's like, and it's not just like I was being silly. Like that, the point of that scene was to make men look stupid. Like, I know if I did that to Brittany, she'd be pissed about that. I'd be mad about that if she did that to me.
Influence of this.
Let's see if I can. That's somewhere around like 8 minutes in, right? Here.
Roles. This is
all compounded by another one-sided feminist lie, which is that housework is unpaid.
and this is presented as a
No. Oh, come on. I'm actually going to have to go to my timestamps or something like that. I don't know. How worth it is it? See you next time, lady. Let's see. Sorry for all the dead air. But how worth it is? Let me just see if I have it in the timestamps. Oh my god, it's gonna flip out because it has to access to my heart. I've already saved it. Oh, anyway, I'm gonna read chats while it does that. While it lags my computer. Vladimir tipped $5. Just finished Anzac March in Australia. Don't know what that is. Sorry. This is your first stream I caught not at work. Keep posting content, mate. You helped build my confidence and get me on the right track for the past 3 years. It's been difficult, but I look forward to streams. Thank you. Ryan Ryder, this is the one I was talking about getting to later. $30 super chat. Thank you. Hey, friend, I told a woman I've known for a while that I have feelings for her. She told me she sees me as a friend. GG. This was years ago. We still talk. She still knows I have a crush. What's her end goal? Am I in the wrong? I don't know. It really depends on how old you are. If you're 18, or if you're, I would say if you're under 25, I think you should drop the friendship. I really don't think guys who are young can be friends with girls. Like, there's too many complicated. Well, I guess you could, but one of them has to not, at least one of them has to not like each other, or maybe both. But rarely does that happen where it's like a situation where both people mutually don't like each other. It's usually one or the other does, and that's why they're around each other. But so being that you already like her, I think what that might end up doing is it might end up making you hold out and miss other opportunities that you could have. So I think it'd be best just to drop her. What's her end goal? I don't know. Maybe she likes having a friend, or maybe she's doing that female thing where they get like guys who are second place and keep them around in case their relationship or their thing doesn't work out. And certainly you don't want to be someone who's second place. Maybe his approach sucked. I don't know, maybe. Also, I think if you find that it's a regular pattern that you can't get the girls that you want, you need to improve yourself. Hit the gym, work really hard to make money, learn how to socialize. Maybe she's a human and wants a friend. No. If they're young, it's always one person likes the other. And I don't know. I think if you're attracted, she said no, drop the relationship. So, did my thing pop up? I feel like it adds to cooking. I'm gonna lose my shit if I didn't timestamp this. This is what I get for actually cleaning my computer. You know what? I know where it is in the Novara Media video. I know it's because it's right at the beginning. Okay, let's throw that up. But it's like this is your
Lately,
Ow. God. Hopefully that didn't hurt anybody's feelings. Oh, you know what? That's why I don't know if it's all their videos, but in this particular video, the audio levels were huge. They were like maxed out, like insane amounts. So they had to like turn this way down. Okay, it's like somewhere around. Was it? No. Come on. We're gonna find this.
And create happy marriages. America is miserable. Social begun to relentlessly focus on the idea that fulfillment.
I'm gonna get in trouble for playing their entire video. Oh God, I gotta be nicer when I write notes. I give up. I'm sure people who saw the video will know what I was talking about. But she shows her boyfriend being stupid. Anyway, that seems like it's too much to spend on this segment. But let's see. There it is. So her boyfriend. Why did she say boyfriend? Why does it say partner? Her boyfriend's white. Her boyfriend is a male. She spends all this time shitting on white people. Spends all the time in the video shitting on men. Like, what do you think that relationship is going to be like? Like, why would you? There's a reason you were 31 and unmarried. And I think they've been in a relationship for a while. Like, there's a reason that you're not going forward with this. Like, do you want kids, or are you just kind of being hedonistic and, playing luck of the draw and hoping that you're not miserable when you're old? I mean, certainly you can decide to not have kids, but you better have a really good plan of what you're going to do later in life. And you better hope that you don't regret your decision, because you only have one chance to do it. So, yeah, I think if she does get married, she's going to create the exact type of marriage her mom did. She's like, oh, my mom's so great. She's praising Betty Friedan, who is, I guess, where we should go into next. By the way, the feminine mystique. We should go here. This book and Betty Friedan seems to be responsible, or at least someone who would parrot all of the common modern feminist tropes that you hear today. They've been parroting this shit since the 70s and since the 60s. Just the same stuff over and over and over again. Who finds her type of behavior attractive? Yeah, I don't know. Like, again, if you're going to go into an argument and you're going to say, if you're going to say anybody who disagrees with you is a horrible person, and you're doing that publicly, you're doing that in your personal relationships too. So imagine what it's like to argue with her. Because it actually takes quite a bit of discipline to not do that. To not instantly call your opponent stupid or something like that. I mean, I even did it with on accident with Huffington Post and The Guardian. I mean, in my defense, I've shown plenty of examples where those two outlets just straight up lie about everything, and certainly I've read more articles from the Huffington Post that starts out with "person I don't like is alt-right" than I've not read. But like, holy crap, where were we? Betty Friedan, right? And I actually was smart and got the video. Because sometimes it's good to know who these people are. I was actually, I don't know. It's like it's so hard to know everything to investigate, and I feel like I investigated Betty way too late. Sometimes it's good to have a face to a name. So this is Betty Friedan. That's the full screen button, right?
In the very beginning, in 1963, that your writing would cause a revolution. And
There she is.
in fact, it did.
No, not consciously. I would have been terrified. I merely was writing a book, and yet underneath, it's strange. There was this sense.
I just feel like they're talking about the feminine mystique. And she said that, what was it like to be world famous? She's like, and it seems like she's like happy about it. What were my good timestamps of this? So she's talking. By the way, for those who didn't see the video, for those of you who have not read have not been so unfortunate to have read the Feminine Mystique, it's basically an opinion, like a 500-page opinion piece from Betty, talking about how women are bored in the household and need to be freed. Which, again, I'm sure anybody could find an anecdotal example of that existing. But if you're gonna say that this tradition that's long survived is wrong, then you need to post actual evidence that what we're doing is correct or is incorrect or not. So, guess who came from an abusive family and is repeating the cycle?
I had this also thing of my mother having been so frustrated. She had started out being a woman's page editor of this.
She's talking about why she wrote The Feminine Mystique.
City, Peoria, Illinois, where I grew up, and then she was married to a businessman, and of course she couldn't work, and she was frustrated about not using her abilities, and she took it out on us and on my father, and then I'd had this good education, and
yeah, it sounds like she was abusive. I mean, I guess you can have some arguments with the father, but like, why is she taking out her grievances on her kids? That's an abuser. People who are not abusive will figure it the fuck out.
I had the frustrations, I suppose, also of not using it. I was just living the life, but I was also freelancing for women's magazines and helping to create this image of woman that just wasn't true anymore. And
what does not true anymore mean? Who's changing the narrative to not be true? And what she's talking about is that back in the day, there were magazines were articles about women who were in their careers or doing things that were heroic or things like that, which I guess you've got a good argument for that. But then they ended up switching to things that were more surface level or superficial. And then Betty's all mad about that. But that might just be that, and she's like, well, this is obviously wrong and people shouldn't be doing this. But it might just be the argument that women wanted to read things that were more superficial. And not doing her due diligence and actually seeing if that was the case before she wrote the book is pretty dishonest. Like, you're writing a book, and it said, I think she took 5 years to write it, so you couldn't actually investigate to see if these were what people were responding to versus how you think they should behave. Because, of course, as someone who's probably pretty highly educated, you're going to have certain different desires than the average woman. So if you're catering to the average woman, you might do things you might want to write certain articles.
somehow it all came together. It all came together in my life. And then I just had this necessity. I had to figure out what the image was and what it was doing and why
I think I already played that. So that's her saying that her mom was abusive and she's continuing her mom's abusive streak. Plenty of time referencing how, let me just show one of them, how great her daughter is. Doesn't even mention her son. I feel pretty insulted by that, by the way.
Children, so
I
on.
had
Like, if I were her son, I'd be pretty, like, does she never mention her son? Like, this is an interview that's in color, which a lot of interviews aren't in color. When she's like, oh, I love my daughter so much, and doesn't mention the son, at least say, oh, I love both my kids, but we're talking about women's rights here, so let's focus more on the daughter, but never mentions her son.
I had my 3 children. I started work on it actually when my baby, my girl, who's now 21, was just born. And well, I
And that's not the only time she mentions her daughter, but does not mention her son, or that she had a son. Just another fun. Again, it just seems like someone who is not a narcissist, or if she wasn't a narcissist, she wouldn't respond. Like, she has like the correct words, but her response is like, oh, I actually do love this.
Well, actually, you then became a very famous lady.
They're talking about after she wrote The Feminine Mystique.
Well, actually, you then became a very famous lady. I mean, very sort of worldwide, and you earned a lot of money, became rich, famous. Did you
well,
love
not so
all
rich,
that?
not so rich. More fame than fortune.
Did you love it all?
It's like, well, I'm not rich, but I am definitely famous. And she, well, I think that's how
Did
she
you
continues.
absolutely adore it all? And do you still?
Well, listen,
Yes, that face is absolutely yes. Let's listen to that again.
Love
so
all
rich,
that.
not so rich. More fame than fortune.
Did you love it all, or did you absolutely adore it all? And do you still?
Well, listen,
Yeah.
it would be hypocritical to say that one didn't get a kick out of some of it, you know?
Yeah.
But it's the whipped cream on the cake. And some of it, well, it's, if you don't have it, you think you want it desperately,
Yeah.
but then you have.
No, I don't think so. I mean, a consequence of this job is fame, but I did not show my face for many years because I did not want to be famous. There are so many negatives to being famous. And I think you have to be pretty narcissistic to say, oh, I really, 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 really want this. And I hate to sound like the people who like that sound like this. Like, you have, like, in the punk industry, you have bands that suck, and then the bands get good, and all the people who were their fans, they say, oh man, they sold out because they actually started making good music. Where's I going with that? Like, I don't want to be like that person. But the reason I got into this is I felt like there was a lot of things going on that people just didn't understand. Like, people didn't understand abuse psychology, or, you know, there was a show called Loveline that ended in 2016 and was really, really over before 2016. I think it had very few viewers that would talk about abuse psychology, and we had very few outlets with it that were talking about that. And then there were also a lot of people who don't have critical thinking skills. So it's a necessary skill. And yes, if I can make a job out of that, that's great. But I didn't sit here being like, oh, I can't wait until I'm famous. Can't wait till a lot of people know who I am. Like, I just feel like it's extremely narcissistic to have that desire without realizing all the negative consequences of having tons of people know who you are. Actually, we're not done with this yet. We have at least one last timestamp. Yeah, so again, you can see a lot of this stuff. This is from 1977, but I believe the book was written way before that. I think it was written in the 60s. Where is it? Like, it's her talking about the general, like, this is not something that exists. This is someone who is either lying to you or does not know how things work.
Well, if there's anything that.
By the way, she's also a Marxist. No surprise.
That my work has been about, the feminine mystique and the way it's changed, breaking through it, the way it's changed all our lives to
No, I'm only going to pause on her face now.
call ourselves person, is that we shouldn't have to make these choices anymore. You choose between profession, career, and love, motherhood, marriage. So we have to make our lives now, and can, in a much more complex pattern. But it can.
Yeah, how? It's one thing to say that. Like, there was plenty of things that were just said in the Ash Sarkar video where it's like, we need equality and fair and labor and home, and like she just said words. Okay, how do we actually realistically achieve that? How do you achieve a life where you're working a 40-hour week and then also full-time raise your kids? You're going to have to make some sort of sacrifice doing that, and the sacrifice is childcare. The sacrifice is having other people raise your kids. So there's no such thing as a full-time mom, a full-time student, and a full-time employee. You can do one full-time thing. Think before you go to college. Yeah, don't go to college unless it's actually a requirement of your job to be in college. If you're going to be a writer, you don't need to go to college to be a writer. You should just write. She's the female version of Marx. Maybe. I mean, the result of her book was breaking up the family. Did they go through all of it? Yeah, we shouldn't have to make these choices anymore. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry that you have to actually make choices and choose between certain options in life. It actually is what makes life valuable, is having to make choices. It's that you don't get everything. You don't have infinite time to watch every single movie. You have to pick. And the good thing about discernment is that you're going to pick better things when you have to limit your choices. We should all meet in the metaverse. No. Thank God Facebook is dying. She'd be a Facebook mom if she was alive today. I think she died in like the early 2000s. Yeah, I think this is the last one.
These no's, we have to put it together for a new yes. We have to put it all together, make it work for us in life, create the new patterns. You know, it doesn't mean that we give up the home, but it has to be a different kind of home. We can't just keep the same standards of complete perfection in the home.
Why? Why can't we keep, I mean, complete perfection is ridiculous, but why can't we keep these standards? She doesn't really say. She'd play Candy Crush and probably Farmville too.
That we used to have, and the work has to be shared differently. Husband, wife, children, or even if you live alone, you still have a. Well, we don't stop cooking necessarily, but we don't cook as slavies anymore. And
slavies. She's making the argument where if you live on your own and you're not in a marriage, yes, certain house chores have to be done, but also. You'd be surprised how much of my stuff gets derailed, how much of my work gets derailed by having to do house chores. Like, it's actually a huge help if someone does that for you. In terms of, like, instead of using that time to work, or instead of using that time to clean floors and make food, I can use that time to learn how to make some sort of investment to make me more money. So if you actually want a household where you're making decent amounts of cash, it's better to split labor. It's better to say one person does this, one person does that. Also, the side effect of that is that your kids get better food, because if I have to learn how to be a chef and I have to learn how to work my job, I'm going to suck at both of those. Because being a chef and making food that's really good is actually quite a bit of work. Being really good at your job is quite a bit of work. And then she suggests, I think I missed something.
Wife, children, or even if you live alone, you still have a. Well, we don't stop cooking necessarily, but we don't cook as slavies anymore, and we can eat out with a freer feeling.
But don't you think that
we can eat out? Okay, so you're going to spend more money, and then, by the way, again, this is someone who is that's very British of her to do that. This is someone who isn't looking at all the negative consequences of that, and this is. Was fast food prominent in the 70s? I think they had fast food, but it wasn't as gross as it is today. The consequences of her saying that we should, by the way, like I said, you're going to suck at both. So if I am not that good at cooking and McDonald's can make a better meal than I can, and I don't have time to make food, I'm going to immediately go to fast food. This has been a major, major downfall of these non-traditional families, is that kids just constantly eat junk food. Like, constantly. Sorry, I was reading the message. But so that they're either eating. So you're either eating junk food, which has been most of the case, or you're eating at restaurants and you're eating food that you can't afford. You're eating food that costs 4 times the price. So by someone who lives in luxury, someone who became rich, of course you're asking to afford to eat out. You're rich. Like, you can't have these families who can eat out every single night. And what's happened also is that the labor market's gone down, and now that there are more people in the labor force, wages have gone down. So it's just gonna balance out, and people are getting paid less for doing more work, as opposed to specializing and getting paid more for doing less.
uh, well, we don't stop cooking necessarily, but we
Oh, I
don't.
think I've already finished it. Oh, I do have to put this one in there because again, they've been selling this BS for years.
At least as many men support the basic goals of equality as women, and I think that men are less threatened by it than some women. I think it's wrong that men have died 10 years younger than their wives in recent generations from all the pressures and the ulcers and the strokes of the tears and the feelings that they have to suppress to be masculine, and that they have to be so big and brave and dominant and superior all the time, and then the guilt.
Maybe men want to be big and brave. Maybe that's actually a good thing. Maybe you don't want a society full of weak men who can't do shit, who are just crying all the time. And this is said 50 years ago, almost 50 years ago. And what a shocker, she got divorced. She got divorced after this book was written. Yeah, I believe it was, I wrote in my notes, 6 years after the book was published, she got a divorce. And think of it this way. Like, what if she had spent, instead of spending all this time writing about how unhappy she was and how unhappy women are, I mean, she could have addressed a problem and said there was some sort of alternative. But instead of spending the 5 years writing about how unhappy she was, maybe she should have worked on that relationship and figured something out. And then maybe that relationship wouldn't have ended. So we can... You have pretty good judgment. I would love your... I will read this super chat, but I generally do not want to do advertisements for other channels. So please don't super chat me an advertisement. But anyway, so I'll forgive this one, but I will be less forgiving in the future. Beach-looking guy. I made a video trying to expose a girl who is faking getting attacked and R-word. You have a pretty good judgment, and I would love your opinion on what happened. Keep up the great work. I guess that wasn't really an advertisement. So that's oh, it's not even appearing in Streamlabs. Justice for Sad Alfred. I don't know what that is. Is that some sort of Batman reference? $5 super chat. Thought on anxious attachment in men. That's a question for Brittany. I don't have all those memorized. I barely have the love languages down. Think before yourself promo. That's yeah, that just came up. I've been iffy on whether to use Streamlabs or StreamYard. StreamYard seems like a little bit more user friendly. Brittany says her thoughts are that they should get an anxious female, whatever that means. By the way, that would be an example of categories or even like love languages that are well agreed upon by a lot of different psychologists that you could study. You could do tests on that to measure those. And you can measure them across a corporation or across a specific group of people versus like some shit that you just made up for the study. Let's see. I am reading my notes. I'm going to see. Okay. Yeah, and I mean the end result of this book is that maybe this and plus a bunch of other things is that traditional families are destroyed. Kids are now fatter because mom doesn't cook anything anymore. They eat junk food. Schools are rampant with radical propaganda because we don't have another nice function of someone not having to work, is that they can go to all the PTA meetings and keep teachers accountable for not indoctrinating their kids with like Antifa and you know, saying if you're born a certain race, you're now a racist. If you're born a certain race, you're better than other people. You've got privilege because you had some oppressor in the past. That's racist. Curious how this wasn't going on when mom was in the home or when we had less single motherhood, because they would sit there and be involved in their kids' lives. Yeah, mentioned that she's a Marxist. Talked about that. I think I got pretty much everything. I might read chat a little bit and call it a day. I'm actually surprised I usually don't get through everything. Oh, I didn't get through everything. I still got TikTok videos. So there's one more thing. That's on my notes. I forgot this little funny trend. So there's the trad wife trend, and then there's like this secondary trend, which is a little bit more on the Let me show that. Let me show a positive video first. This one's kind of, I thought this was funny. I'd rather have more women like that girl from the video Mystique, or more chicks like this. I wish I had this girl for the video on Nicole Raffi. That would have been funny. So.
5 things I didn't know were controversial about my marriage until I posted about them online. Number 1, I like to look nice for my husband. My husband loves me regardless of how I look, but I love putting in effort to look nice for him. Number 2.
Isn't that strange? Actually trying to keep up your appearance for the person that you're with. Maybe if you keep doing that, they won't try to go out of the relationship. There's no wonder, like, so many people on the left, or I would call it mainstream left. I don't want to say like left of center in general, because I think a lot of those people would disagree with this stuff. But like mainstream left or radical left are saying that you got to cheat on your partners and stuff like that. Well, yeah, because your partners are not doing what they can to be physically attractive. It's not just about mental game. You actually need to be physically attractive.
And this one's really crazy.
And after Nicole Raffi saying, I don't like dress for a man. I don't dress for my partner. I don't like try to look good. Well, yeah, then you're going to have consequences of that, which is you're going to have a shitty relationship.
I make his cup of coffee in the morning for him. Number 3, I cook for him every night. Number 4, when we are together, I do not drive. And number 5, he is responsible.
By the way, asking for leadership if you're not driving. But I don't let Brittany drive because I don't want her crashing my car.
For the final say in all of our financial decisions.
She can crash her own car. She has this, like, because she still hasn't gotten her license yet. We thought she got her license, but like it turns out that Texas makes your license look makes your permit look like a license, and they just clear it as a license after you pass the test. And so I like have to force her out of it. She's like, "Oh, you're making me drive." It's like, "No, I'm letting you drive because I actually would rather drive." Here's a new trend, by the way, on the TikTok thing. More on the Wizard Liz type lifestyle, where it's like, okay, you sort of have a good thing, but this is actually kind of not that great of a thing. Or Streamlabs. There it is.
This is what my mornings look like as a 25-year-old stay-at-home girlfriend.
Let me repeat that. They all want a passenger. No, I would prefer that you don't drive. Unless we're like, I guess if you were better, if we're like on a long, like if we're at a point where you're driving well enough to where like I don't have to like sit there and look at you constantly or look at the road constantly, because then you're no longer a new driver. Then I can like rest my eyes if we're taking like a 7-hour trip. Like those are always hard. Like I get headaches from having to look at the road too long. Like if it's a long trip. So listen to this again.
This is what my mornings look like as a 25-year-old stay-at-home girlfriend.
Stay-at-home girlfriend. That's one hell of a way to say sugar baby. And I've seen a couple of these videos, and it's all like the stay-at-home girlfriend. They're all in like really, really upscale houses. So this is a sugar baby. I don't know, like, are you marrying this person? Because it seems like in defense of the things that the feminists say, like it seems like a very stupid position to not have any financial backing if this relationship screws up, because you don't have a commitment from this person. So I'm gonna call this person a sugar baby. Because
I fill up Luke and I's water bottles to make sure we're hydrated, and then I made myself a Bloom green juice, and then I made. It's
very, very rich of her to do that. Something about people who live in like upscale places always think that like drinking a powder is better for you than eating actual food.
Luke his latte. I make him an iced latte with cinnamon and maple syrup and homemade almond milk. Then I tidied up our bedroom, made the bed. Then I did my
It's a very upscale looking bathroom.
long skincare routine. It's like,
what is that? Brittany, what is that devil machine that she has on her face?
Skincare routine.
There, what's going on there? Is she gonna get eye cancer from that? Why do they all sound the same? They all have that same accent, don't they? Oh, this is the this might have been what that first girl was making fun of, where she's like talking in a soft voice. The red light helps wrinkles and acne. Okay.
It's like 20 minutes.
Yes, I heard that Tucker Carlson got fired. Who didn't hear that? Tucker Carlson, on that topic, while just to derail this video and get super ADD and tangential, I guess a lot of us would hope that he would go to Rumble and just, take one for the team and not do what's most economically viable for him and help the community out a little bit, because he's already got millions and millions of dollars as far as I'm aware. But if he moved to Rumble, it would bring a shitload of people to that website, and then maybe we don't have to like sit there and just hope that YouTube doesn't change the terms of the contract every 3 months and there's some new thing that we can't say. So obviously him running into Rumble and building that would be helpful, but he's probably going to start his own thing or just retire.
Long and ice roll.
I know Don Lemon probably wouldn't do that, though. If Don Lemon wanted to go onto Rumble and bring his audience there, that probably would be good. But also the issue is with, I guess, both of them, is that most people who are young don't listen to mainstream news. So they'd be bringing a lot of boomers over to these platforms, and I don't think they would do it. What's a 5-finger for? Like, you can take like your, I don't know what that is.
Then I did my 5-minute journal and went on a walk on the beach to get
went on a walk on the beach and brought the coffee out that she just made.
And ice rolled. Then I did my 5-minute journal and went on a walk on the beach to get...
Yeah, like I said, sugar baby. Because they have a beach house. Beach houses are millions of dollars. This person's rich. They're millions of dollars, and they're like 500 square, or sorry, not 500. They're like 1,500 square feet. Like in Texas, for a multi-million-dollar house, you could get probably 5,000 to 10,000 square feet in like a huge mansion. I don't know why people pay so much for such small places.
A coffee with Luke, and then I put my workout clothes on.
I would have lint rolled those before putting those on screen.
Did a workout at the gym with Luke. And
Sunny V made a very rational, someone says, what did Sunny V do? He made a very rational video about what the situation with Chris Tyson puts, how difficult that makes it for MrBeast to create content where he appeals to both sides of the political spectrum, especially with the side that might not want kids watching his content now.
Afterwards, made us some smoothie bowls with some super...
all I see is like lots of sugar, but it looks healthy, right? I mean, she's thin, so it's like she obviously doesn't eat too unhealthy, but it's like I don't like everything's got to be a powdered drink. I can understand like protein shakes if you're trying to like gain muscle and not get fat, but like I just don't think like that's healthy. It looks healthy, but I don't think it's that healthy.
Foods. And I made myself my second caffeine drink for the day, matcha latte with Bloom's collagen, and then I planned out...
Does she make any actual food? Because it's one thing to mix a drink. It's another thing to actually cook a meal. Like, she's mixed fruit. They probably have a chef. This guy has a beach house. He probably has a chef or something. They probably go out to eat a lot.
Superfoods. Then I made myself my second caffeine drink for the day, matcha...
Oh, I did get one of those, Brittany.
Latte with Bloom's collagen.
The matcha mixer is what I'm referring to.
And then I planned out the rest of my day in my new planner.
That looks so carefree. Wouldn't it be great just to be rich and just do nothing all day? I don't know. I don't think it's actually that great. I mean, there are plenty of examples of people who are like in media who are the spawn of rich parents, and they're just like the laziest, most degenerate people. Like, is it really better to be carefree and play video games and drink alcohol all day, or is it better to actually have meaning to your life and provide something to the community? So I don't think necessarily growing up rich is actually a good thing.
Yes.
Another stay-at-home GF, and again a wonderful rebranding of Sugar Baby. Looks a lot like a Sugar Baby with the way this camera is positioned, and what the ad's for. Having money doesn't stop you from becoming bored and depressed. That is true. In fact, if you're an addict, it makes things way worse. It's much harder to recover as an addict when you have tons of money. Like, imagine you can afford all the drugs you want. Yeah, again, Sugar Baby. This is incorrect framing.
It's true. I'm a stay-at-home girlfriend, so I'm gonna show you guys what I did today. My boyfriend does.
Oh, I forgot. I missed that. Did you guys catch it? Let me go back. Let's see if you guys catch it.
Yes, it's true. I'm a stay-at-home girlfriend, so I'm gonna show you guys what I did
Well, that was really fast, right? I'm sure if there are any girls watching, they all caught that. Designer purse.
today. My boyfriend does leave me money, a little extra.
I would troll here and put 100 on the end and then just put everything else as a 1. But even if those are all 1s, that's still like a lot of money, right? I suppose it could be like 200. He leaves cash so I can easily deposit and pay off my credit cards. This is a sugar baby. This is what the, like, does anybody remember the sugar baby video that I did where like they're just like we call it this legal sex work, legal prostitution, where they're like getting their sugar daddies to pay off all their bills. A guy can cook for himself and get a girl for the weekends. I mean, if he's that rich, he should just eat out. It seems more efficient to do that.
Just so I could pay off my credit cards because credit is everything. Then I got some Starbucks. Then I went to Zara just to return some.
Brittany, are you watching this? It's funny that she throws up the what's that, Louis Vuitton? Yeah, it is. The Louis Vuitton purse, and then she goes to Zara.
Is everything. Then I got some Starbucks. Then I went to Zara.
For all the guys, those are cheap clothes.
Just to return something, and my annoying ass ended up buying a sweater. It was so cute, and look how cute it is. Then I went to H&M just to see what they had. They had so many things.
H&M's not that bad.
So I got all that clothes for $45. Run to H&M. They have some good stuff. Then I got a new phone, so.
Yes, that's what I do with my wad of 100s. Go to Zara.
I got a cute little pink.
And H&M. Those two shirts that are really like nice and thick were from H&M. So not all of their clothes are bad, but most of the H&M. Yeah, she's right though. A lot of H&M shit's cheap and disgusting.
Case. Then I went to Home Goods. I don't know why I'm obsessed with pillows and.
God, I just love this day of being a trad girlfriend where all you do is buy clothes and buy decorations all day, and walk around with your Louis Vuitton purse.
Plates said help. And I went to Trader Joe's. It was a huge haul. Look how cute the little pumpkin patch area. Then I got another coffee. I went home, put everything away, and then I decided to do these little flower arrangements for the room and the kitchen. I thought they came out kind of cute, you know? They don't really match, but it's okay. Then I went to Ulta because I couldn't get a tanning appointment, so.
Then I went to go buy makeup. Geez, if I were Betty Friedan and I was gonna live in this lifestyle, I'd be like, man, this shit is easy. I get to have someone else pay my credit card bills. I pay off my mistakes, and then I get to shop all day. Somebody asked a question that somebody said that Ross, somebody said that Zara looks like a luxury store compared to Ross. I will say this is that a lot of times when you buy cheap stuff, it's actually more expensive than expensive stuff. I think I was talking about this with Brittany a couple weeks ago, and I learned this lesson when I was very young, 16. I built my own computer, and there was a company called Maxter. If you guys don't recognize the name Maxter, it's because that company doesn't exist anymore. But they were a hard drive company, and they were well known for having a lot of what are called dark sectors on the hard drive. It's basically like little holes in the hard drive, as far as I'm aware of computers. Like there's a, like here's like, let's say the drive's writing data here, and it falls in a hole and it crashes the computer. And so there were dark sectors all over the hard drives. I did a rebate. By the way, could not use my computer until the hard drive arrived. And the second hard drive failed. Or sorry, RMA, not a rebate. And then I did a third RMA, and that hard drive failed. And eventually I just said, screw it, and I bought I think I bought a Seagate, and that hard drive never had any problems for years. So do you want to sit here and deal with the headache of not being able to use your stuff, and also often buying multiples of the cheap thing, versus like you might spend, let's say, $100 on a cheap hard drive versus like 175 Seagate, but if you have to buy 2 of the cheap $100 hard drives because they don't work, then you're actually spending more money buying the cheap stuff. So it might be better to go and buy clothes that are a little bit more expensive, learn how to wash them and take care of them, than it is to buy cheap clothes. And then also, you're not buying cheap-ass clothes. 40 gigabyte. I remember having an old 40 gigabyte. No, this one was a 300 gigabyte Maxter hard drive, which doesn't sound like very much today. Buy nice, don't buy twice. Yeah, that's correct. It very much pisses me off at how it's like everything's going to cheap goods to where like you can't even find nice stuff in a lot of regular stores anymore. You always have to go with the cheap crap because so many people aren't are so into like I just want the lowest price versus a thing that will actually last a long time. Like the amount of time a thing lasts is actually pretty important.
Like, you know what? I'm a DIY bitch. I'm gonna do that shit myself. And then the girl who waxed me left some hair, so I finished that too. Those cookies are so fucking good.
God, did she eat anything healthy? How's she staying thin? All I've seen her do is eat junk. She like had like a coffee that was like not like coffee, it's like an adult milkshake.
Said help. And I went to Trader Joe's. It was a huge haul. Look how cute the little pumpkin patch.
Yeah, how many calories are in that? That's like all cream. You're trying to stay thin. You drink coffee black.
Area. Then I got another coffee. I went.
Let's see, candy. Not to say I've never eaten candy, but like
home, put everything away.
Man, this girl has a lot of junk food in her house. That is not a smart thing to do. Regularly buying junk food's not a smart thing to do if you want to stay thin.
Away, and then I decided
she vomits all her food, maybe.
To do these little flower arrangements for the room and the kitchen. I thought they came out clean hair, so I finished that too. Those cookies.
Is it Halloween time? I guess so. I guess this was filmed a while ago. Oh God, look at her TikTok name. Look, can you guys see that? No, you can't see it. Now can you see it? Yes, this is a sugar baby. Assalicious. Stay-at-home girlfriend. Are you fucking kidding me?
These are so fucking good. Then I went to the gym with Jay, and then I got home, cut up some fruit, made some dinner, and yeah, that's all I did.
What's this? It looks like a mess. I guess that's dinner. Like it's like a steak, or not steak. Brittany, what is that? I don't know how to cook. All my cooking was when I learned all my cooking skills when I was vegan. So beef, some sort of brisket. There we go. Like mashed potatoes. Presentation's horrible though. Is it steak? But look at like all the threads. That doesn't look like steak. I don't know. When Brittany cooks, she also like works on the presentation, so it doesn't look like a pile of slop. Like this would not pass the restaurant quality. And again, like if she spent less time shopping and more time working on her actual skills, then she would be able to present this like a pile of like. Okay, you can cut up fruit. Cutting up fruit's not that hard.
Fruit, made some dinner, and yeah, that's all I
Anyway.
did. What did you guys do?
What did you guys do? Did you spend the whole day shopping and living in luxury? Braised short rib, apparently. No, Brittany and I live a very stereotypical household. I cook all the someone did I tell this story before? Someone made a video where she said that the racial stereotype is that white people don't season their food. And so but black people do. Brittany's half black. And so she's like, one of the video came up. She's like, oh, white people don't season food, but they take all the lack of seasoning that they have in their regular food goes towards making the best desserts possible. And I was thinking like, wait, Brittany can't make desserts, but she can make regular food. I can't make regular food that well, but I can really do a good job with desserts. So usually if I'm cooking, I'm taking care of desserts. Can I say the M word now because she's half black? I don't know. I think that the jury's still out. But it's going to be very, very hard to call me racist. Unflavored chicken is the best. I'm so good at cooking unflavored chicken for bulking because it's efficient and easy. And one credit to Sneeko when he used to be funny is he did a video where he asked people if he was black enough to say the M word. And way too many of them said no, so I'm not going to take that risk. Give me that pink chicken. Sounds like salmonella. All right. Did I miss Super Chats? I think I did. No, I didn't. For once. All right. Well, I think that is about it. I'm always like not knowing how to end streams. Like I'm like a terrible person at parties because I'm like I never know when to leave a party. So I'm like, I feel bad for leaving. Though I will 100% show up late if you ever have a party. I never want to be the first one there. Ever tried NyQuil? I need to eat too. I'm hungry. Let's see. I think you actually... So here's the weird thing. And so you start the stream from Streamlabs, but you actually have to end the stream from Google or from YouTube. Let's see. Brittany used to have a sticker on her laptop that said N-word pass, but that laptop broke. All right, where is it? Hold on, let me request it to monetize the stream first. And I think that'll be it. Well, that'll be it.